میں اپنے پیاروں کی نسبت ہرگز نہ کروں گا پسند کبھی، وہ چھوٹے درجہ پہ راضی ہوں اور ان کی نگاہ رہے نیچے، وہ چھوٹی چھوٹی باتوں پر شیروں کی طرح غراتے ہوں، ادنیٰ سا قصور اگر دیکھیں تو منہ میں کف بھر لاتے ہوں، وہ چھوٹی چھوٹی چیزوں پر امید لگائے بیٹھے ہوں، وہ ادنیٰ خواہش کو مقصود بنائے بیٹھے ہوں، گیدڑ کی طرح وہ تاک میں ہوں، شیروں کے شکار پہ جانے کی، اور بیٹھے خوابیں دیکھتے ہوں، وہ ان کا جوتا کھانے کی۔ اے میری الفت کے طالب، یہ میرے دل کا نقشہ ہے، اب اپنے نفس کو دیکھ لے تو، وہ ان باتوں میں کیسا ہے، گر تیری ہمت چھوٹی ہے، گر تیرے ارادے مردہ ہیں، گر تیری امنگیں کوتاہ ہیں، گر تیرے خیال افسردہ ہیں، کیا تیرے ساتھ لگا کر دل میں خود بھی کمینہ بن جاؤں، ہوں جنت کا مینار مگر دوزخ کا زینہ بن جاؤں، ہوں جنت کا مینار مگر دوزخ کا زینہ بن جاؤں، ہے خواہش میری الفت کی، تو اپنی نگاہیں اونچی کر، تدبیر کے جالوں میں مت پھنس، کر قبضہ جا کے مقدر پر، میں واحد کا ہوں دل دادا، اور واحد میرا پیارا ہے، گر تو بھی واحد بن جائے تو میری آنکھ کا تارا ہے، گر تو بھی واحد بن جائے تو میری آنکھ کا تارا ہے، تو ایک ہو ساری دنیا میں، کوئی ساجی اور شریک نہ ہو، تو سب دنیا کو دے لیکن خود تیرے ہاتھ میں بھیک نہ ہو، تو سب دنیا کو دے لیکن خود تیرے ہاتھ میں بھیک نہ ہو۔
ذکر خدا پہ زور دے، دل مٹائے جا، ذکر خدا پہ زور دے، ظلمت دل مٹائے جا، گوہر شب چراغ بن، دنیا میں جگ مگائے جا، گوہر شب چراغ بن، دنیا میں جگ مگائے جا، دوستوں دشمنوں میں فرق، دابے سلوک یہ نہیں، آپ بھی جام میں اڑا، غیر کو بھی پلائے جا، آپ بھی جام میں اڑا، غیر کو بھی پلائے جا، خالی امید ہے فضول، صحیح عمل بھی چاہیے، ہاتھ بھی تو ہلائے جا، آس کو بھی بڑھائے جا، ہاتھ بھی تو ہلائے جا، آس کو بھی بڑھائے جا، ذکر خدا پہ زور دے، ظلمت دل مٹائے جا، جو لگے تیرے ہاتھ سے زخم نہیں علاج ہے، جو لگے تیرے ہاتھ سے زخم نہیں علاج ہے، میرا نہ کچھ خیال کر، زخم یوں ہی لگائے جا، میرا نہ کچھ خیال کر، زخم یوں ہی لگائے جا، مانے نہ مانے اس سے کیا بات تو ہوگی دو گھڑی، قصہ دل طویل کر، بات کو تو کو تو بڑھائے جا، گوہر شب چراغ بن دنیا میں جگ مگائے جا، گوہر شب چراغ بن دنیا میں جگ مگائے جا، ذکر خدا پہ زور دے، ظلمت دل مٹائے جا، کشور دل کو چھوڑ کر جائیں گے وہ بھلا کہاں، کشور دل کو چھوڑ کر جائیں گے وہ بھلا کہاں، آئیں گے وہ یہاں ضرور، تو انہیں بس بلائے جا، آئیں گے وہ یہاں ضرور، تو انہیں بس بلائے جا۔
Take over the chair for today's meeting. The chairman today, as mentioned, is Mr. Mansoor Ahmad Shah. He's the National Vice President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK. He's a former teacher and retired chartered accountant, also a former editor of the Muslim Herald and the Review of Religions, the community's English monthly journal started by the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and was a co-founder of Humanity First, which is our international charity based in the UK. So I welcome Mansoor Shah Sahab to please come forward and now take over the chair for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sayyid Imtiaz Ahmed. We begin our meetings with a recitation of a passage from the Holy Quran. I request Mr. Maulana Humayun Jahangir Khan Sahib to please recite a portion.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم وميثاقه الذي واثقكم به إذ قلتم سمعنا وأطعنا واتقوا الله إن الله عليم بذات الصدور. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم. جزاكم الله.
Beg your pardon. English translation of the verses which have just been recited by Mr. Amir Sikandar.
Assalamu alaikum. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. And remember Allah's favor upon you and the covenant which He made with you when you said, "We hear and we obey." And fear Allah. Surely Allah knows well what is in the minds. O ye who believe, be steadfast in the cause of Allah, bearing witness in equity, and let not a people's enmity incite you to act otherwise than with justice. Be always just, that is nearer to righteousness. And fear Allah, surely Allah is aware of what you do. Allah has promised those who believe and do good deeds that they shall have forgiveness and a great reward.
Now I invite the regional president of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Midlands Region, to please welcome our guests and also to introduce the panel of speakers. Mr. Sayyid Imtiaz Ahmed. Sayyid Imtiaz Ahmed. What's happening?
Thank you very much. Sorry, I had muted myself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, ever merciful. Respected Chairman and Vice Chair of AMA UK, Mr. Mansoor Shah, dear and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. On behalf of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association Midlands Region, I am truly humbled and honored to be able to welcome you to today's virtual function celebrating Religious Founders Day, where in particular we are celebrating unity and peace through religion. Today's virtual function, as mentioned, is hosted by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association Midlands Region, and it is also being streamed live on YouTube and various other social media platforms for the benefit of both our members and the wider community. We would have much preferred to have hosted today's celebration in one of our many beautiful mosques throughout the Midlands region, where we normally meet in person, provide food and refreshments, and get to know you all much better. However, we hope and pray that this pandemic is over soon and we'll be able to resume our functions again in person. We are also grateful indeed to Almighty God that at least we have the facility to hold these virtual events where we can continue our programs, at least to meet virtually. We are also truly honored that today we have speakers representing the great religions of Christianity, Hinduism, speakers from the Jewish faith, from the Sikh faith, the Sikh religion, from Buddhism, and from Islam. Unity and peace are two fundamental cohesive factors which, once achieved, can positively transform all societies and nations for the better. This is particularly important during these very difficult and trying times where the world has not only been decimated by the coronavirus pandemic over the last 12 months or so, but has been ravaged by wars, civil unrest, and deep divisions in society for decades in many parts of the globe. We only need to look across the Great Pond to see what has been happening recently in the United States, to see the great need for unity and peace. As Ahmadi Muslims, we firmly believe that adherence to the true and pristine teachings of religion can bring about unity and peace. However, we look forward to listening to our learned speakers and learning about their religions and their views on this important topic also. I would now like to introduce our learned speakers who have taken time out of their busy schedules to address us today. We truly are grateful for you all for coming and imparting your knowledge and your views to us. So not in any specific order, one of our speakers is Mrs. Parveen Birgue. Mrs. Parveen Birgue is Vice President of Wolverhampton Interfaith. She is a retired senior probation officer and previously has served as the chair of the Interfaith of the Wolverhampton branch from 2016 to 2019. Thank you so much, Parveen, and thank you for joining us today. A very warm welcome to you also. We also have Reverend James Treasur, who is the vicar of St. Thomas and St. Luke's Church, affectionately known as the Top Church, in Dudley at the top of the High Street. He was asked by the bishop to start a new church in the most iconic church buildings in Dudley, and for it to be known as a blessing to its community and resource to other churches. Since taking on this project, the church has enjoyed quick growth and is very active in the community. Before that, James led Sean Hill Church in Stourbridge, having moved from London, where he started a new church in Streatham. When he's not leading churches, he enjoys running, playing chess, and being with his family. A very warm welcome to you also, Reverend James Treasur. Reverend has also been attending our functions in the past also. I would next like to introduce Eve Sacker, who is representing the Jewish faith. Eve is a interfaith representative at the Nottingham Liberal Synagogue. She's a freelance RE and multicultural educational specialist with Master of Arts focused in religious education from the University of Warwick. And again, she's attended some of our previous functions again. So thank you once again, Eve, for coming. And also for, hopefully, we'll see you in future events also. I would also like to mention Kuldip Singh Ubhi. Kuldip is the president of Namdhari Sikh Community UK. Namdhari Sikh Sangat UK believes and promotes truthful living, caring for all. Next we have Pet Finden. Pet is a Buddhist chaplain who teaches Buddhism at Nagarjuna Kadampa Meditation Center. I hope I've got that right, Pet. This is based in Thornby. She's a practicing Buddhist for over 25 years. Pet also supports people who are ill and also people who are terminally ill and coming to the end of their life. A very warm welcome to you also, Pet. We also have Stuart Lynch with us, who has attended mosque in Birmingham many times, and thank you for coming again, Stuart. Stuart he's lived in various countries throughout the world, in Japan, in Singapore and various other places, very well traveled. In Asia also. Since 2013, Stu and his wife Hilary lived in Birmingham, UK, where they're working in a multi-faith community to restart a church and supporting pastors and church leaders across the city. Their focus is helping foster deeper spiritual formation, healthy life rhythms, and faithful environmental stewardship among like-minded people of faith across the city. So again, a very warm welcome to Stuart also for joining today, who will also be giving the vote of thanks at the end. I'd also like to mention a quick mention to Asha Masih. She's the Deputy Chair for Diverse Communities in Coventry. I believe Asha is also with us today. Also, she's the Chairman of the IACF, which is the International Asian Christians Front. So thank you so much. A very warm welcome to all of you for coming today, and we look forward to listening to your addresses later on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Now we have a short introductory video about the Ahmadiyya, worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim community. The technical team, please, can they start this video, please? Please bear with us.
The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is a dynamic, fast-growing international revival movement within Islam. Founded in 1889, the community spans more than 195 countries, with membership exceeding tens of millions. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is the only Muslim community to believe that the long-awaited promised Messiah has arrived, in the person of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, India. The promised Messiah claimed to be the metaphorical second coming of Jesus of Nazareth, and the divine guide whose advent was foretold by the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace be upon him. The community believes that Allah has sent the promised Messiah to end religious wars, condemn bloodshed, and to reinstitute morality, justice, and peace for mankind. The advent of the promised Messiah has brought an unprecedented era of Islamic revival. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is the leading Islamic organization that categorically rejects any form of terrorism. Over a century ago, the promised Messiah emphatically declared that the doctrine of violent jihad goes against the teachings of the Holy Quran and the practice of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. The promised Messiah's advent has ushered in a new era of dialogue, tolerance, and prayer. The promised Messiah penned over 80 books and thousands of articles, delivering countless lectures, engaging in public debate, and prayer duels in an intellectual, spiritual campaign to defend the true honor of Islam. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is the foremost Islamic organization with a central spiritual leader. Over a century ago, the promised Messiah reminded his followers of Allah's promise to safeguard the message of Islam through Khilafat, the spiritual institution of successorship to prophethood. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community believes that only the spiritual successorship can uphold the true values of Islam and unite humanity. 5 spiritual leaders have succeeded the promised Messiah since his passing in 1908. The 5th head of the community, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, resides in the United Kingdom. Under the leadership of its spiritual successors, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has built over 15,000 mosques, over 500 schools, and more than 30 hospitals. It has translated the Holy Quran to over 60 languages. The community propagates the peaceful true teachings of Islam through a 24-hour broadcast channel, MTA, through the community's website, alislam.org, and print, Islam International Publications. The community has been at the forefront of disaster response worldwide through an independent charity, Humanity First.
Yes, please carry on, Chairman, sir. If you can unmute yourself, please, Mansoor Shah, sir.
Is the video going to continue or is it finished? Okay, thank you very much indeed. Our first guest speaker is going to speak on behalf of Hinduism, Mrs. Parveen Birgue, and she is the Vice President of the Wolverhampton Interfaith Group. So I invite Mrs. Parveen Birgue to please address us.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Namaste and good evening. I would like to thank the organizers from Ahmadiyya Muslim Association to give me this opportunity to say a few words from Hindu perspective in celebrating unity and peace through religion. Firstly, I just wish to share the importance of unity within Hinduism. Unity gives individuals courage. We should always stand together because not only it gives us power, strength, courage, but it is also needed and very much important for our survival. Understanding this word, unity, a very simple word, having a deep meaning. And I'm a firm believer as a Hindu, where there is unity, there's blessing from the Almighty. A message of peace and love towards others is heart of all of the major world religions. And there's a golden rule that you should treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Some believe that religion tolerance is the way to peace. In order to establish peace is to avoid violence and follow the ethics that preached by all religions. Both believers and non-believers live in the same society. So it is important that religious tolerance is to maintain peace amongst people from all religions. All major religions share a common root, which is compassion for the suffering, improvement, love and respect for others. However, if you were to be completely honest with ourselves in today's modern information sharing age, we are seeing more and more people, in particular young generation, turning away from religion simply because they see it as more of a source of division and tribalism instead of unity. This I experienced whilst I was the chair of Interfaith Wolverhampton. Observations made by all main faith leaders that very few young people were attending their respective places of worship, and attempts were made by Interfaith Wolverhampton to involve young people, and questions were asked as to why these young people were not taking part in any of their sort of activities or attending their place of worship. So there was a lot of young people, and even the attempts were made to form a group of youngsters who were basically approaching other young people. I mean, I myself was actually involved with a few schools and managed to get some champions on board and see how we can get these young people involved. And that is our future. If you're talking about peace and unity. I think in order for perceptions to radically change, we need to change ourselves. I mean, I reflect as a Hindu person, starting from the morning, what have I done? What will I be achieving today? And I think I shared this at my last input, the last event, that karma plays a big part in my life. And I have to, do good deeds. And those, good deeds, you have to do something for the community, for people. And that's the perception that we need to, for myself, I need to change and closely examine myself. And it is very important for me, as I said just now, examine my actions before I point a finger at anybody else. If we claim a religious identity, we need to be more introspective, closely examine our lives and ask ourselves whether we are living in accordance to the principles laid out by the belief system. Radical self-reflection is needed. Are we sincerely attempting to emulate the actions and virtues of the saints, prophets in Hinduism, following what's been said in Gita, Mahabharata? These are the sort of scriptures. Are we sincerely, emulating this? And virtues of the saints, prophets, and leaders in all facets of life? Or are we only religious when we show up at our respective place of worship? The secret of religion lies in 24/7 practice, as one's action can teach more effectively than any lectures, any sermons. And I just would like to share my experience. We were on holiday in Mauritius, and this is where communities from all different faiths come together to celebrate all religious festivals with equal enthusiasm and respect. Hindu festivals like Deepavali, Holi, and many more, and Sikh festivals like Gurpurab and others, and Muslim festivals like Eid al-Fitr, and Christians celebrating Christmas and other festivals, and Buddha Purnima celebrate Mahavir Jayanti. And I was so impressed with these sort of interfaith interactions in Mauritius, how these communities came together. And the person that we had a driver who was taking us to all the places of interest. And he shared some of the knowledge about all these festivals. And he even invited us to his house and offered us, hospitality. And my husband and I were asking a question. This person, he is full of knowledge. He's like an encyclopedia on this. And I asked, towards the end of our sort of time because he was with us for 14 days. And we got to know this person. And I didn't want to ask him, what faith did he belong to? And it was really quite sort of, anyway, he said, I would tell you, I'm a Muslim. And he was, like I say, hats off to this guy. And I was, we talk about celebrating unity and peace through religion. And this person was celebrating that in all sort of, in his work life, in his, and I thought that was a classic example. I just wanted to sort of share this with you. And I, as a Hindu, believe in being, sharing that sort of information. And I think sometimes religion puts sort of that sort of, I don't know, barrier or whatever, we feel, but that we should sort of really look at ourselves. How do we perform our sort of day-to-day life, reflect? So I just want to sort of share what Dalai Lama, the Tibetan leader in exile, said, that religious tolerance of Araya Bhumi, a reference to India found in the Mahabharata, has been in existence in this is in India and in other parts of the world for many years, thousands of years. Not only Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, which are the native religions, but also Christianity and Islam have flourished here. Religious tolerance is inherited in India, Indian traditions. If we all put basic principles into practice, we can achieve unity, peace through religion. And thank you very much for giving me the time to share my personal perspective from Hinduism. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Our second guest speaker is going to speak to us on behalf of the Church of England, and is Reverend James Treasur. So I invite the Reverend James Treasur to please address us.
Great, thank you, Chairman. And it's so lovely to be here, and like everybody else, wanting to be together really in person, but this is the next best thing. And it's lovely to reconnect with some people as well, even though it's via Zoom. I really do miss my connection with the Hale's Own Mosque, and have very fond memories of eating amazing curries and table tennis, as well as all the spiritual aspects of sharing life together. So I hope when this is all over to reconnect with you all a bit more in person again as well. And what a wonderful topic, and how important this topic is in our day and age, where I think we're probably more aware of division over the last few years than we ever have been before. So it's fantastic to see people gathered from across the religions to be thinking about this really important subject of unity, and what we can all contribute to our understanding of unity and peace. I think for all of us, we're probably very aware of COVID, aren't we? Which is why we're on Zoom. And someone described COVID as the great magnifier, in the sense that what COVID's done is kind of shone a light or magnify some of the divisions and the inequalities in our society that were already there, as well as bring a lot of good out of it, and togetherness and community and life together. It's also shown, hasn't it, that who the key workers really are, as if we all probably knew, but it seemed like those in power perhaps needed to be reminded. It showed us and revealed to us some of the inequalities, but it also showed us some of the division actually that's in our society. And so it's so good, something like this, that in that kind of context, that actually we can share the things that kind of bring us together as humanity, and almost crosses the borders at times in different religions, rather than always kind of noticing our differences. And it feels very much like we need to have that time where we come together. So I'm really interested to see what role we can all play in building that. However, I think the challenge is for all of us, well, particularly for that of my faith tradition, is that I know Christianity, and perhaps other religions here may feel the same way, I don't know, haven't always been instruments for unity. Often our story's been one of division and divide, and separating people rather than drawing people together. And it's really challenged me to think about what kind of stories do we now need in our society that acknowledges difference and doesn't take it away from one another, but also is big enough to hold us all together, that can actually recognize that at our core we belong together despite some of our differences. So I've been sort of meditating and reflecting on that need for a bigger story to hold us together, recognizing that actually religion can contribute to that. And in my faith, we draw on a number of different traditions. One is the Hebrew scriptures, and we're really one of my favorite passages in the Hebrew scriptures is actually right at the beginning of those scriptures, when it talks about God creating humanity in his image. And for me, that's one of the biggest stories that I hold on to despite our differences. And it helps me build bridges, and not just kind of build walls, but build bridges. Because I recognize that as I look, as it were, in every Zoom face here, and as I look at humanity as a whole, I don't just see difference, I see God's image in people. And God's image is precious, is wonderful, is a precious and beautiful thing. And it helps me remember that every single one of us is valued in God's sight. That people aren't objects to be moved around a board, as it were, in the great scheme of things, but actually everybody has value and has importance, and everyone has a story. The other sort of story, or my understanding of my faith that I draw upon, is that obviously it's the life of Christ, Christianity, the life of Christ. And one of the examples that Jesus always gives us to do, and one of the things he asked us to do to help him to remember him, actually, was to eat together. And that's one of the things I miss actually in lockdown, is just eating with people. And I don't miss food. We've all probably eaten too much food in lockdown, but I miss the eating together, the sharing of life, of recognizing our common humanity. And that's something we do when we can gather again as a church. We do together every Sunday, not just through the practice of what we call communion, the bread and the wine that Jesus gave us to do, but also we do eat meals together. Not as good as the curries in the Hell's Own Mosque, but we do try and eat together and eat well, because in that we're following the example of Jesus and we're sharing life together. So our faith really teaches us a couple of things. One is that we recognize that actually in the past we've caused division, and we want to kind of step into that place of a bigger story. And we draw on some of the traditions of that from the Hebrew scriptures of recognizing all are made in God's image. We all have value in God's sight. And also the example of Jesus, when we're trying to, build bridges amongst people, just often through sharing a food together, rather than always building walls and pointing out difference. And my hope and prayer is something like that you're doing this evening, that we're participating in, is that actually it helps us all in our own way to follow those examples, that we are all made in God's image. And actually we want to follow the example of Christ, whoever we understand Christ to be, of trying to build bridges, eat together and share life together. And I hope and pray that one day we all better do that in person again. But for now, that we'll hold that in our hearts. So thank you so much for letting me just share for a few moments from the Christian tradition from the Church of England. And God bless you. And it's a wonderful thing to be part of this. So thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Reverend James Treasur. Our next guest speaker, the third guest speaker, is the interfaith representative at the Nottingham Liberal Synagogue, Eve Secker. So I invite Eve Secker to please address us.
Thank you very much. Shalom, and thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to learn alongside the Ahmadiyya community and the way that you bring people together from such a diverse range of communities. It's always a pleasure and an inspiration to work with you. Now, today I've been thinking about the fact that we've come together to mark Founders Day. So I was thinking about, how do the founders, how do the people from early Judaism, from the early Jewish community, how do they show those values that we are talking about peace and unity? So I would like to talk about two particular figures within early Judaism. But before I can do that, I need to share a little bit with you about what the Jewish community is like. Because the Jewish community is different to other religious communities, because we're not just a religious community. We view ourselves as a people and are classified legally as an ethnic group. Most Jewish people are born into Jewish families, and that is what makes them Jewish, not what they believe. What makes you Jewish is your family ties. People do become Jewish, and that involves taking on Jewish beliefs, but most Jewish people are Jewish because their parents were. Now, this means that you will meet Jewish people who tell you that they don't believe in God. And that can be quite confusing for people who understand religion to be about belief. But when you view Jews as a people, this actually makes sense. We've got a group of people who are connected by family ties, a common history and experience. But of course, a group of people is going to have lots of different opinions, and particularly in my community. Now, traditional Jewish thought says that you are Jewish if your mother is. Progressive Jews like myself, a liberal Jew, drawing on evidence from the Hebrew Bible, talk about whether your mum or your dad is Jewish. That makes you Jewish. But still, no matter where you sit in Judaism, what makes you Jewish is who you are and those familial ties. We're like one big family. So who were the founders of this family? Now, the Torah, known to Christians as the Hebrew scriptures, the first 5 books of Moses, tells us that the founders of this big family are Abraham and Sarah. Now, to us in the Jewish community, we know him as Avraham Avinu, Abraham, our father. And Abraham is a wonderful example of peace and unity. For those of you that are not so aware, although I'm sure many of you are, Abraham lived in what is now modern Iraq at a time when people worshipped lots of gods. And his view of religion as faith was very different to the people around him. That could have been a source of division. But instead, we see a man who brought people together. Now, in Parashat Lech Lecha, which Christians would know as Genesis chapter 12, God calls to Abraham, telling him to leave his home, promising him a land and descendants. Now, our rabbis teach us that it wasn't that Abraham found God after he was called. It was rather that God found Abraham as an existing believer. Now, this story is very familiar to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, who will all look to Abraham as a prophet or a messenger of the one God. Indeed, I am a multicultural educator, and in schools, we talk about the Abrahamic faiths, the three faiths, finding unity in Abraham. Now, our tradition, the Jewish tradition, has it that he was a figure of unity in his own time as well. The tent of Abraham and Sarah was known as a place of hospitality and kindness, no matter what the background. In Parashat Vayera, known as Genesis chapter 18, Abraham rushes out to welcome strangers to his tent. He offers them his best food. He shares precious water, which was so valuable in a desert environment. At the end of his encounter, he walks them along the way to show them the right direction to go. These simple actions showed that Abraham valued other human beings. By valuing other human beings, Abraham and Sarah fostered peace and unity amongst their neighbors. Many centuries later, the rabbis would talk about the holiness of Sarah's tent, comparing it to the tabernacle, which was the sacred worship tent that was used before the temple in Jerusalem. They said that the presence of God pervaded it and could be easily sensed. Sarah herself is considered a prophet in the Jewish tradition, and she brought many people into an awareness of God, just as Abraham brought many men into an awareness of God. They teach us that through kindness and hospitality, through recognizing the value of others, we bring people together. We create humanity, we create community. Simple acts of sharing, simple acts of sharing food, bringing people together with hospitality. Now, the religious life of Abraham and Sarah, the founders of my big Jewish family, are different to the religious life of Jews today. God's interaction with people and with my Jewish family grew from that point. And later on, we see another great figure of unity, giving Judaism its religious character that we have today, and that is, of course, Moses. Now, for Jews, we know him as Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher. For Muslims and Christians, again, great messenger of God. He led his people out of Egypt. He took them to Mount Sinai, where in Jewish tradition, he was given both the written Torah, first 5 books of Moses, and the oral Torah, the oral tradition that has been passed from generation to generation. Eventually, this was written down in what we know as the Mishnah and was expanded upon by the rabbis to create what Jews call the Talmud. Again, a prophet shared by Jews, Christians, and Muslims, a figure of unity. Our tradition has it that he was a very modest man, and his duty was to God and to people. Simple as that. There's even a story that God offered to make Moses the founder of a great nation, all of his own. But he didn't want people to think that he had only acted for his own glory. And so he politely declined. He said no to God because his duty was to people, his people. Now, Moses and his brother Aaron are also held up as great examples of brotherly love and of unity. Moses was the man of truth, while Aaron was the man of peace. Together, they worked side by side, leading their people through very difficult times. In the Torah, sometimes it talks about Aaron first. Sometimes it talks about Moses first. They could have easily been jealous of each other, but they weren't. Moses had a privileged upbringing in a palace. Aaron was a slave. Aaron led his people while Moses was in the desert. He could have easily resented his brother when he returned, but he didn't. Their bond, their unity, is remembered in one of our favourite Psalms, in Psalm 133, where it says, "How good and pleasant is it when brothers live together in unity. It is like precious oil poured on the head, running down on Aaron's beard." The example of Moses and Aaron teach us that fostering peace and unity often requires us to put the needs of others first. He led his people through different times, difficult times, through to the promised land, and yet he didn't get to enter it himself. He died before he could go into the land. Now, we may not see the fruits of our labor. We may not see the benefits of what we are doing, but others will, and that is what is important. His leadership alongside Aaron and his sister Miriam shows us that often we cannot achieve things alone. We need to work with others. We need to work with patience and humility. We need to recognize that common unity that joins all people together. So in conclusion, the key prophets from the early period of Jewish history are wonderful examples of fostering peace and unity. With kindness and hospitality, they've shown us how to act with respect towards other human beings. They have taught us that creating community is a joint effort. It involves all of us, requiring peace and humility, both in their personal lives and in how their legacies have shaped Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They remain an inspiration to millions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eve Saka. Our fourth guest speaker is Mr. Kuldip Singh Ubhi, who is the National President of the Namdari Sikh community of UK. I invite Mr. Kuldip Singh Ubhi, please, to address us.
Good evening to everybody, and a very warm Sat Sri Akal. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for organizing this event. It's great to see everybody. I know we would be today sitting in the mosque, sitting together, enjoying ourselves, and like he said, having a meal together. But as we know, COVID has changed a lot of things for us here. It's brought a big change in people's lives. We were driving at 100 miles per hour, and we've been stopped to standstill. We have seen the effects of COVID with individuals, with families, with people passing. But I find it's a very important time for self-reflection, which is a very important part of my religion, Sikh religion. And through COVID, even at home, we're negotiating all the time with our family, with our children. Life is about negotiation. Even when I have to get my son to do a bit of homework, I have to negotiate with him. Will you do something? I will give you this sweet. And this is what we've been brought up to believe within Sikhism, that when you have communities, families, individuals at loggerheads, if one gives away, say, okay, I'll do this, the other person will then agree and say, okay, I will do this. And then you've opened dialogue, and that conflict has started to resolve itself. As religious leaders, it's good to know that we have a task of establishing peace within our societies. And just looking at the call today, we've got leaders from many different faith groups. And we're like the fourth emergency service. So I've had phone calls from families who have had somebody in hospital really ill. They can't get any help from the doctors because some of you may have experience with COVID. They can't do much. They tell you to have paracetamol, stay away, come into hospital. They can just give you, because there's nothing out there. And then they look for pray. They look at God as their next sort of help. So I know some of the workers have, and the community workers, leaders have been working very, very hard in this area. And we haven't been helping each other because COVID has not looked and said, somebody's a Muslim, I'm going to attack them. Somebody's a Christian, I'm going to attack them. Somebody's a Sikh. It didn't look at anybody. It looked at us as a human race. and it attacked us all. And we had to stand together. So today, for us to come out of this COVID, we're all having our vaccines. We're all having it together. We all have to work together to come out of this. And this is a very important part of our Sikh religion. Sikh religion is one of the youngest religions. And you'll see on the temple and our holy book, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, the very first word is Ek Umkar. So a two-letter word, and every time we start our prayers, we start that Ek Omkar, which means God is one. And when we believe that, we look at Amritsar, which is a holy temple in India. It has 4 doors. And the reason it has 4 doors, it lets communities in from every walks of life. And it's a big remembrance for us for every part of our life. Our founders, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji, our first Guru, laid 3 pillars. And that's the basis of Sikhi. Kirat Kumar, which is hardworking. Van Shoko, which is sharing. And meditation, where we look at ourselves. And I have found in this time where I've spent 3.5 hours traveling, I get that time back to myself, which I've had with my family. I've then had time to myself to complete my prayers, sit in meditation. And when you have that peace of mind is when you can then cope with all the problems around you and actually help others. When we sit on an aeroplane, the first thing they tell us when the stewardess comes on and you're flying, said, put your mask on first. When you put your mask on, then you can help somebody else. So we found this time very important to help with unity and peace is to look within. And when you can help yourself, you can help your family. And when you can help your family, then you can help your community. When you can help your community, then you can help other communities. You can help your city, you can help your country. And this is how we can help the world. If I fly over to France, I have to go through checking points. I have to show my passport. I have to show everything. We have made these rules. If you see a bird, it will fly from here to the other side of the world and nobody will check the passport. We have made these rules. We have made these conflicts. We've made these differences. But when you bowl back, and what Guru Nanak Dev Ji gave us a message, Ek Umkar, God is one. He said, if you're a Muslim, be a good Muslim. If you're a Hindu, be a good Hindu. Because the basis of every religion is speak the truth and love thy neighbor. And if we can all do that, where is the conflict? So it's very good to have an evening like this where we can talk together as community leaders, see any issues, any problems, like we just discussed earlier today regarding the youth. The youth have got totally different views. We may have come from different countries, but their views here are very westernized, very different from the cultural background of some of the religions. And we have to cope with that. We have to work with that. If these religious beliefs are to continue going forward, they have to integrate a lot more in society. And we do have to do a lot more thinking. So hats off to the Muslim community who have put today's event together, Toby and the team. I think it's wonderful and hope there's many more to come. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kuldip Singh Ubhi. Our next guest speaker is Pet Finden, who is the Buddhist chaplain who's going to address us. I request Pet Finden to please come and address us, please.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, I'm getting some nods. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this event. For me, it's always a delight to be able to talk a little bit about my faith, which is Buddhism. But probably something important to say is probably all of us are going to say the same basic truths, aren't we? The importance of developing compassion for others, the importance of being tolerant, the importance of holding a mind of love. We have, as all the religions in the world, far more in common than we have differences. But hopefully you'll find it a little bit interesting, maybe when I talk about some of the main aspects of Buddhism and how this helps me as an individual to, I suppose, make sense of this world and to give me methods to be able to overcome my individual problems and to maybe feel that in some small way I can benefit others. So Buddhism is an ancient religion and goes back approximately 2,500 years to the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, who is the founder of Buddhism. And he gave many teachings throughout his life, a total of 84,000, which are called Dharma. So Dharma means all of Buddha's teachings and the experiences that we have of them. And although, of course, Buddha lived a very long time ago, those teachings are just as relevant today as they were then, because they are all methods to help us to become the best person that we can be. And if we wish to become enlightened, or for us as individuals to attain also a state of enlightenment, so we can truly benefit others. And I think in these days, we know, don't we, that we need some very special methods to help us to navigate our way through this, extraordinary year. It's hard to know what words to use, isn't it? But I think we have seen within this last year some very fundamental truths throughout the world. What is really important? What is it that truly matters? And also maybe, many individuals, we hear this, don't we, a lot on the news, have found this last year very difficult, either physically, through being ill or losing loved ones, or emotionally and spiritually, feeling maybe very isolated, maybe not knowing how to react to all of the constraints that suddenly all of us have. Who knew? I'd never heard of Zoom a year ago. And now, yes, we go on to Zoom, we do this, we do that. So one of the main, I suppose, principles of Buddhism is to develop minds of compassion. So Buddha said that his teachings were like the two wings of a bird, that they are teachings on compassion and teachings on wisdom, and that we need both if we are to fly to the city of enlightenment. So compassion, I think, is a word that we all love. We understand it, don't we? Because all of us have within us an urge to help others. But as the last speaker so eloquently said, we need to be able to, I suppose, look after ourselves. So the analogy of the oxygen on an aeroplane is very similar to maybe the Buddhist analogy, where it says that one drowning person can't help another. So if someone is drowning, then naturally maybe we want to jump in and help. But we can only really help if we ourselves can swim. So within Buddhism, there are many methods to help us to work on our mind. The practice of Buddhism actually is very much about working on our own mind, taking responsibility for our actions, our words, and our thoughts, and then training our mind so that not only do we really help ourselves to become peaceful, but then we are also in a better position to be able to help others in whatever way that might be. And I think this last year has also shown us the great kindness actually there is in this world. Amongst all of the heartbreaking stories, there are many stories of kindness. Captain Sir Tom, we all loved him, didn't we? Quite extraordinary to have such an old, probably painful body, but to be so inspired by a wish to help that he really pushed his body, didn't he? And that inspired and moved, people throughout the world. So even if we feel that as individuals we can't make a difference like this, we can all make a difference within our own families, within our communities, by training ourselves and becoming someone who is open, tolerant, peaceful and kind. These are great goals to have. So Buddhism encourages us to take responsibility for our own mind, not to blame others, not to blame external circumstances, but to realize that everything that happens, we maybe cannot control, but we can learn to control our response to it. So maybe, at one time we might have become quite angry with our current circumstances. Instead, maybe we learn to have more of a patient mind, accepting that things are happening maybe that we don't want to, but we need to be able to respond in a peaceful way. Of course, changing what we can, doing what we do, but also trying, I think as the Queen very eloquently put it a day or two ago when she gave her address, we need to think of others. And this is a great part of Buddhist practice and Buddhist understanding, trying to put the needs and wishes of others, maybe first of all as important as our own, but eventually to be able to genuinely believe that the needs and wishes of others are more important than our own, to be always thinking of others. What can I do to help others? How can I make a difference? At the very least, how can I not be a problem in this situation? So meditation, of course, is a large part of Buddhist practice. Meditation, of course, common to so many religions and also to people who maybe have no religious belief. So we understand, the importance of our own state of mind. And Buddhism encourages us to get to know our own mind and to see how powerful it can be. Buddha said, with our mind, we create the world. So this means that our state of mind, actually for us, it determines everything. And if we can learn to live a peaceful life where we do whatever we can to benefit others, whether that is in a practical way, or maybe if we can't help practically, praying for others, wishing for them to be happy, that by doing this, we can make a difference. And when times are tough like they are at the moment, we need to have something, don't we? We need to have an inner strength that comes from faith, which I'm sure all of you experience very directly for yourselves, that faith is incredibly powerful. It guides us and it gives us answers where maybe we don't have other answers. It helps us to love everybody, to see beyond maybe superficial differences, age, gender, lifestyle, all these sorts of things. Those aren't important because, as Buddha said, we all are united in two basic wishes, the wish to be happy and the wish to be free from suffering. So, of course, we complicate this, and don't we? And we create lots of long lists. I would be happy if, I wouldn't be unhappy if this didn't happen. But fundamentally, we are all guided by this wish to be happy and peaceful and this wish to be free from suffering. And the more that we can see that we have in common with others, then the more connected we feel. And the more connected we feel, then the more we can feel peaceful when we are with others, the more we are genuinely motivated by minds of love, by minds of kindness, to do whatever we can. And then we can also think as Buddhists, my belief in Buddhist teaching is that this life actually is very short. And I think we've seen that a lot in this last year. This life, it passes in the blink of an eye. And as Buddhists, we believe that we have many lives. We don't just have this life, we have many, many lives. And that the actions that we engage in this life will help us to have a peaceful life in the future. Or if our wish is to become enlightened, to become also a Buddha, so that we can truly benefit others, that all of us have the potential and the capacity to do it, but we have to put in some effort. So this is where we take responsibility for training our own mind. So these teachings, very, very ancient, but deeply infused with wisdom and have stood the test of time. Many, many generations have practiced these same teachings. As the outside world has changed, our inside world has remained the same. Our minds now, just the same as 2,500 years ago. We are all striving to become the best people that we can be. We all want to make a positive difference in this world. And as people of faith, as we all are, then we have, I think, a comfort actually within our own minds, a comfort that will guide us through these difficult times, that will help us to feel grateful when times are good, and that help us to resolve maybe a lot of the grief and the sadness that is natural throughout our life for so many things. And this inner confidence, it can help us when others are struggling as well. So in my role as a chaplain, I've spent much time with people who are coming to the end of their lives from all different faiths, all different beliefs and ideals. And if we can become that peaceful person who can help others, during times of loss and sadness, and if we can also be that positive example, maybe, when times are more maybe ordinary, which we all long for, don't we? Ordinary, boring times. Who would have thought that we would miss such things? And yet we do. So if through using Buddhist wisdom, Buddhist understanding, practicing through meditation, and then through putting Buddhist teachings into practice in our daily life, then we can say actually that our life can become truly meaningful, and that as our life progresses, we take more meaning actually from our life, develop more peaceful states of mind, and then do everything that we can to really help others in whatever way that we are able to do, through practical actions, or through sending, prayers, asking Buddhas to help people who are struggling. So I hope that that gave you a little insight into what it is to be a Buddhist. And thank you again very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thanks. Sorry. Our next speaker is our keynote speaker, Mr. Ataul Mujeeb Rashid, and he is the National Vice President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK. He's also the missionary in charge and also the Imam of the London Mosque, the first purpose-built mosque in London. Mr. Ataul Mujeeb Rashid is a scholar of Arabic and has served, in Japan and also in the UK. He has written many books and is a very favored speaker. He's always in demand by all our community branches throughout the UK and also, the rest of the world as well. So it is a great pleasure for me, to invite respected Imam Sahib, to please address us.
Is it okay?
Yes.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Very respected listeners all over the globe, because the message is going everywhere. First of all, I would like to exchange and present to you the Islamic greeting, which says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. That may peace and blessings and mercy of Allah be upon all of you. Islam being a global religion, it requires that the message of peace and harmony and unity and peace between the people and followers of other religions should be a universal gift to be given to all of them. This evening, we have got a very interesting subject in front of us. It says unity and peace through religion. After listening to quite many thoughtful presentations, now it is my turn that I should present to you what Islam has to say about this very important subject. This subject, as you can see, is really very, very important because it is the need of the time. And all the people in the world, to whichever religion they may belong to, they actually are yearning to have the unity and also the peace. And we know that all the people belonging to various nations, they have been trying their utmost to bring about this blessing to mankind. After the First World War, the League of Nations was established. The purpose was to establish peace, but it couldn't. Then after the Second World War, the United Nations came into existence, again with the same purpose, that the mankind should be able to have unity and peace among them. But still we feel that this objective, although it's very noble and very important, but it is still not actually in existence. So it means that there is some need to follow something which is much more important than that. I, as a humble follower of the religion of Islam, which is a global message of peace and unity for the whole of mankind, I would like to humbly submit that the solution of this problem, in my opinion, is to follow the teachings of Islam. I will explain in few words that how does Islam can do this job. First of all, I would like to mention certain introductory things about Islam. You will be able to guess from that really the teachings of Islam, if they are properly followed and properly spread to all the people, it definitely results in the establishment of unity and peace between mankind. What is the meaning of the word Islam? maybe some people do not know. It's an Arabic word, and the literal translation of the word is peace and obedience, and also the harmony. So these are the basic things for which Islam stands. And at every level, Islam requires that there should be peace and harmony and unity between people. Maybe at the level of a person, in his relative, in his house, in his society, in his country, and maybe we can say all over the world. Because the tree of peace, it starts growing like that. And if it is properly looked after, and the people of the world, they recognize their responsibility and comply with that, then peace will not be confined to that house. It will spread all over. And ultimately, it will be a global blessing for all the mankind. Islam, very important religion, many speakers have mentioned that, is actually a global message of guidance. It is not limited to some people or to some country, or it does not mean that people should belonging to a particular country. Rather, it's a global message. And that is the message of guidance for the mankind. And all the people living anywhere, maybe they belong to one religion or the other, maybe they are of one color or one race, or whatever background they come from. The message of Islam is a global one. This point should be understood, and that is something, a special thing in this religion of Islam, that it caters for the sentiments of all the people. The respect of other religion is very much important thing in Islam. Islam does not teach hatred or enmity or ill will, rather peace, harmony, and unity, and all these good qualities, unifying the whole, all the people, that are the core teaching of religion of Islam. And moreover, Islam gives the message of peace and unity. It says that the behavior of a Muslim should be a peaceful one, and they should all try work together to establish the unity in the mankind. So this teaching is also very important, taking care of all the people and sentiments. I give you a couple of examples to make this point clear, that Islam always teaches its followers to be very kind and courteous to all the people. Maybe they are following any religion, or may not be even following a religion, but being the creation of God Almighty, Islam requires that kindness at heart and kindness in action, that all should always be shown to the people. There is a beautiful example in the best exemplar of mankind which Islam has presented. That is the noble example of the holy founder of Islam, Prophet Muhammad. May peace and blessings of God be upon him. He was a living embodiment of this humanitarian teaching of Islam. I give you two examples. Once there was a dead body which was being carried to the cemetery for burial, and the Prophet, along with some other people, was sitting by the side of that track where the dead body was being taken. He, as his routine was, and Islam requires, that we should show respect to the people, to whichever religion they may belong to, whether they are alive and whether they are dead. So following this ongoing practice, the Holy Prophet of Islam, he stood up as a mark of respect for the dead body, without asking who he was and which religion he belonged to. So all the companions, they also did the same. When the coffin was taken away, then one of the person very quietly told the Prophet that, Prophet, do you know whose dead body was that? He said, no, I don't know. So he was informed this was a dead body of a Jewish person. At that, the reply of the Holy Prophet is worthy to be written in gold. He said, was he not a human being? So as a human being, as everybody has given a special status of respect and honor, and that must be given. whether a person belongs to a religion or does not belong to it, whether he believes in God or not. But he has been created by God Almighty, the creator of the whole universe. So that respect which is due to be given to every human being, that must be shown at all time. Let's look at another example. Once a delegation of 70 Christian people, they came to Medina, where the Prophet migrated after staying for a long time in his birthplace. Then he was forced to leave that. So he was in Medina at that time, where he has built a very big, very spacious mosque, very beautiful one, which is always visited by the Muslims when they go there. So when this delegation of 70 Christians came, they wanted to discuss certain matters with the Prophet. So they were invited. This is to be noted. Not any other place, but right into the mosque. The Holy Prophet said, "You are most welcome to come and sit there." That was his magnanimity and open-heartedness. And he invited all these people. They all sat together, and the Prophet was there. They started the discussion. During the course of the meeting, the leader of the delegation said, "We want to have a pause, a break." What for? He said, "It's time for us to pray. And we would like to go outside to find a suitable place where we can offer prayer in our own way." Look at the nobility of the Holy Prophet of Islam and the magnanimity of the teachings of Islam. That the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Don't you think that my mosque is a good place for you to offer the prayer here? So no need of going outside. Don't go outside. Keep sitting here, and we will have a break, and you can offer the prayer, and then we will resume the discussion." So history tells us that the Holy Prophet of Islam permitted that big, large delegation of the Christian people to offer the prayer right in the mosque of the Prophet, which was so sacred. And the Holy Prophet and the companion, they just came on one side so that they can pray. So this attitude, that shows that how accommodating and how magnanimous are the teachings of Islam. If this spirit is inculcated in all the people, then you can see really that objective that we are talking today, the unity and the peace, that can be achieved by all the people. So religion plays a very important role. And I can speak on behalf of religion of Islam, that it is all for unity and peace and harmony between the people. And also Islam says that the people should also stay together in peace and harmony. The Islam does not preach violence, does not ask anybody to fight others or to usurp the rights of other people. Rather, be a peaceful person. If you show peace, then you will be able to get peace. This is a beautiful principle which is taught in Islam. And Islam has taught its followers to always be kind and courteous and loving to other people. And moreover, Islam teaches that the people of all the world, they should be given the message of that one God who is the God of Islam, as presented with all the noble qualities and the teachings which ultimately result in the establishment of the unity and peace. So Islam is a flag bearer of the concept of the unity of God, and that is a very outstanding teaching of Islam. Now, introducing some more points about Islam in the context of this subject today, I can say that the basic introduction is about the Holy Quran. Holy Quran is the most sacred religious book in Islam. This has not been written by any person. It is not the writing of the Holy Prophet of Islam or any of his disciples. Rather, the whole book, each and every word in that, has been revealed to the Holy Prophet, who was basically not able to read and write. It was revealed to him through Archangel Gabriel, who took the message from God, brought it to the Holy Prophet, and conveyed to him, who immediately repeated after him. And then later on, he asked some of his followers to come down and to write down in black and white. So in this way, each and every word is from God. It's not man-made. It is written down right at that time, and that was the way in which the whole text became absolutely secure and sound. And there is no difference at all in that writing. All the time, it remains the same. And moreover, God Almighty has given the assurance that this is a teaching because it is meant for the mankind. It is meant to be the best supreme teaching which the people should follow. Therefore, God Almighty gave this guarantee that this is going to be safeguarded and it will never change. And this is a historical fact that the text of the Quran, which was written down at that time, and the text that is printed nowadays, maybe in any other country, but the text in Arabic is always the same, without a single example of any change in writing. So this was the promise of God that came fulfilled, and it has been safeguarded. And the reason for that is because the Holy Quran contains that recipe of the unity and peace of the mankind. If the teaching was such which was going to be changed or forgotten, then it cannot give this desired result. Another interesting thing, very beautiful, but maybe some people will find it hard to believe, that there are thousands upon thousands of people all over the world who have memorized and committed the whole text of the Quran to their memory. Without looking at the text, they can start from one end and go to the other. It's a big book, 600, 700 pages there. It takes time to memorize, but there are literally thousands and thousands of people. Even this afternoon, I met a young boy. He was introduced that he is in the process of memorizing the Holy Quran. When I asked that young boy, about 10 or 11 was his age, that how far have you gone? He said, I have gone to the half. 15 parts of the Holy Quran he had already memorized. It's just young lad. And within next, say 1 year or so, he will be able to recite the whole Quran from the beginning to the end. So this is another method which actually goes along with this point that the message is perfect. It is there to remain all the time, and people can continue benefiting from that to establish the real unity and peace and harmony among them. As I mentioned, this is the literal word of God Almighty. It is very complete, and it's a guidance for the whole of mankind. It gives the answer to all the problems which the people may be facing at that time. And it gives the teaching of the equality of mankind. Racial discrimination is not at all accepted in the teachings of Islam. This racial discrimination is actually the cause of a difference between people and conflict between the people. And ultimately, it goes to the fighting and wars. So Islam does not recognize that. And the Holy Quran, as I mentioned, the text is completely secure without any change. Now, text is text. People can say that, well, the book is there and it is very good to have such a book. But Islam has not given the written text, but a practical example in the life of the Holy Prophet of Islam. That was also given to mankind. And that is again something great to be seen, because the Prophet of Islam was a role model for all people to come. And he was the highest, most sublime in his rank by all the prophets. And he was the Khatamun Nabiyyin. He was the seal of the prophet, the best of the prophets. And God Almighty declared that in his life, you can have the noble example to follow, because people are always in need of some example to follow. So Islam says that people can go and find those books which are plentiful, in which everything that the Prophet said or did has been documented. So they can easily follow the example. He was a human being. So nobody can say that he was far above from human being. No, not at all. He was a human being, but for that matter, very perfect human being. So he served as a role model. And that is also something very, very important. So much so that the non-Muslims, even they have recognized his superiority and his excellence. There is an American writer with the name of Michael Hart. He has written one book, very famous. It is known as 100. In that, he has tried to put together the brief life account of 100 people of the world, which actually, one can say, changed the destiny of mankind, and that who was really the role model for other people to follow. And many people will be surprised when I tell them that this Christian author, he has put the name of the Holy Prophet of Islam on the top of the list. Number one is the name Muhammad, and then later on other names are there. So that indicates that his example was really an example for everybody to follow, and he was much superior in his good qualities, although he was a human being. Islam has also given the teaching of the freedom of religion. There is a very important fundamental teaching which says, La ikraha fid din. There is no compulsion in matters of religion. So much so that if a person is born Muslim and he leaves the religion, or is a converted Muslim and then he decides to leave, there is no punishment of killing for such a person. And moreover, Islam does not permit that Muslims should go out and fight with the non-Muslims and try to make them Muslims by force. This of the things is not. Rather, once the Prophet was asked that what is the definition of a Muslim? He said that Muslim is he from whose tongue and from whose hand all other people, not only the Muslims, all other people are completely secure and safe. So this is the magnanimous teaching of Islam, which gives the message of unity and peace to all the people. So I would like to say that the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, who is the host of this function, that was established in 1889. Since that time, the community has been spreading this message of peace all over the world. Humanity First is our charity organization. MTA, Muslim Television Ahmadiyya, is our global television, which is transmitting the message of the unity of people. So this is, and the community is already established in 214 countries. So this is just by introduction of this community, which is the flag bearer of this message of unity and peace for the whole of mankind. In the end, I would like to simply say that God bless us all and bless the whole world with peace and unity. May it be so. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Imam sir. Our final speaker is Mr. Stuart Lynch, who is going to be posing the vote of thanks on behalf of all the listeners to the panel of speakers. Mr. Stuart Lynch, please.
You all. It's really been wonderful to be together. It's been such a rich time. And of course, we long to be together face to face, as several of our speakers said tonight. With the COVID, we can't be. And we've had a lot of food for our minds and for our hearts, but we long to be back together, not the least of which to share that wonderful food for the body, the curry that the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association and the Birmingham Mosque and the different mosques are so kind to share with us when we get together physically. I'd really like to take this opportunity to say a warm word of thanks to the organizers of this event, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of the Midlands Region. I should also extend our thanks to Syed Mansour Ahmad, Vice President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK, who chaired tonight's meeting. I'd also like to acknowledge each of the speakers for your meaningful contributions. I have a couple of pages of notes here, really rich time. And please forgive me if I mispronounce your names or titles, but thank you to Parveen Birgue for your talk on Hinduism, for James Treasur from the Church of England, Eve Sacker from the Nottingham Liberal Synagogue, Singh Ubhi, President of the Namdari Sikh Community UK, Pet Finden, Buddhist chaplain, and Imam Ataul Mujeeb Rashid, missionary in charge of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK. And I feel certain, just from listening, that each of you has spent considerable time and thought and effort to prepare for sharing tonight. And you've given each of us much to reflect and ponder on in the days ahead. Thanks once more to each of you for your valuable contribution to tonight's event. We've been so blessed to hear from such a distinguished and diverse group of speakers. The theme of tonight's meeting was celebrating unity and peace through religion. And I believe, as many have said, this theme reflects our shared humanity, an innate desire of humans to foster meaningful connections with one another. So I really appreciate our shared value of respectfully celebrating both similarities and differences in our worldviews and beliefs. As a follower of Jesus myself, I'm so thankful that his teaching shows us that God's love extends to all of humanity and not just one group or another. And as we come together in gatherings such as this, we're reminded again of our shared hope for a world where people of all faiths or of no particular faith can live together in peace and harmony. May we all strive to live in such a way that fosters a united and peaceful humankind. Again, many thanks to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of the Midlands Region for bringing us all together tonight. God bless you all, and good night.
Thank you very much indeed. We've been listening to a number of speakers today, and they've been telling us various ways, in which humankind has joined together. And I hope that you have listened to all the speakers and you'll take back some of the things that they have mentioned. The most important thing is that you should go and conduct your own research and try and find out about these various faiths and their teachings. And there is a lot of hope which religion has got to give at the moment. And we encountering daily a number of deaths which take place, and the only thing which can give hope is religion. So we have a huge responsibility, the world, the leaders of the various religions, to promote hope at this time, and to find out ways in which we can all the things that we share together, that we can share our common values and lead mankind towards a better future. When you look at your own lives at home, you find if you've got a couple of teenager boys, and if they quarrel all the time, the mother always insists, wait till your father comes home and he'll teach you, not to mess around. So this shows us, that when the father returns, the boys begin to behave themselves. That shows you that there is value in recognizing an authority, and to whom one owes ultimate discipline. So if we wish to have peace, we will have to learn that we have a creator, to whom we will ultimately return. We talk of the roadmap, out of this pandemic. There are roadmaps, already with all the religions of the world, which show how mankind can unite towards God and learn godly attributes and practice those godly attributes in their daily lives here. So I hope that everybody will practice those values. And thank you very much indeed, for participating in today's session. Everybody who has been on Zoom and even on YouTube, thank you very much indeed for participating in today's session. May God bless you. We always end our meetings with the silent prayer. Will you please, we raise our hands. So will you please join me in any way that you wish? Just a few moments of silent prayers. Thanks. Thank you very much indeed. Ameen. Thank you very much indeed. And God bless everybody. Thank you very much indeed. And good night to everybody. Thank you.
मैं अपने प्यारों की निस्बत हरगिज न करूँगा पसंद कभी वो छोटे दर्जा पे राजी हूँ और उनकी निगाह रहे नीचे वो छोटी छोटी बातों पर शेरों की तरह गुर्राते हो अदना सा कसूर अगर देखे तो मुंह में कफ भर लाते हो वो छोटी छोटी चीजों पर उम्मीद लगाए बैठे हो वो अदना अदना ख्वाहिश को मकसूद बनाए बैठे हो गीदड़ की तरह वो ताक में हो शेरों के शिकार पे जाने की और बैठे ख्वाबें देखते हो वो उनका जूता खाने की ऐ मेरी उल्फत के तालिब ये मेरे दिल का नक्शा है अब अपने नफ्स को देख ले तू वो इन बातों में कैसा है गर तेरी हिम्मत छोटी है गर तेरे इरादे मुर्दा हैं गर तेरी उमंगे कोता है गर तेरे ख्याल अफसुरदा है क्या तेरे साथ लगा कर दिल मैं खुद भी कमीना बन जाऊं हूँ जन्नत का मीनार मगर दोज़ख का ज़ीना बन जाऊं हूँ जन्नत का मीनार मगर दोज़ख का ज़ीना बन जाऊं है ख्वाहिश मेरी उल्फत की तू अपनी निगाहें ऊंची कर तदबीर के जालों में मत फंस कर कब्जा जाके मुक़द्दर पर मैं वाहिद का हूँ दिल दादा और वाहिद मेरा प्यारा है गर तू भी वाहिद बन जाए तो मेरी आँख का तारा है गर तू भी वाहिद बन जाए तो मेरी आँख का तारा है तू एक हो सारी दुनिया में कोई साझी और शरीक न हो तू सब दुनिया को दे लेकिन खुद तेरे हाथ में भीख न हो तू सब दुनिया को दे लेकिन खुद तेरे हाथ में भीख न हो